Nobody gave you permission to read every terms of service agreement buried in 47 pages of legal text. Consider this your permission to finally understand what you actually agreed to. You bought the device. You own the device. But right now, someone else owns everything it knows about you. Your location history, your sleep schedule, who you called at 2 a.m., and yes, what you searched for and immediately deleted. Here is the part that should make you pause. You said yes, not with a handshake, not with a signature, with a tap. One tap on I agree, and you handed over a data profile more detailed than anything a private investigator could build on you in a year. And the worst part? The companies collecting this are not shady backdoor operations. They are the brands sitting on your desk, charging on your nightstand, and riding in your pocket right now. This video exists because most people never connect these dots. Stay with me, because by the end, you will never look at your tech stack the same way again. So why does nobody talk about this? Because the business model depends on you not knowing. In 2023, Meta reported $131.9 billion in annual revenue. Google pulled in $307 billion. Advertising is listed as the source, but advertising is just the clean word for it. The actual product being sold is behavioral prediction, knowing what you will want before you want it and selling that knowledge to the highest bidder. The data brokerage industry alone is worth over $240 billion globally. That number should stop you cold. These companies have zero financial incentive to simplify their privacy settings, write readable terms, or alert you when your data changes hands. In fact, the opposite is true. The more confused you are, the more passive you become. And passive users are profitable users. There is also a legal layer here. In the United States, unlike the European Union, there is no single comprehensive federal privacy law. That means the rules differ by state, by platform, and by whatever those 47 pages said when you tapped agree. The system is not broken. For them, it is working exactly as designed. Here is what people inside the tech industry actually do differently. Former Google engineer Jonathan Zunger, in a 2019 interview, described internal data handling as building a shadow profile, a version of you constructed entirely from inference, even if you never created an account. Your friend uploads a photo with you tagged. A website you visited had a hidden Google Pixel. You walked past a Google-mapped storefront with Bluetooth on. Suddenly, there is a profile with your face, your movement patterns, and your approximate income bracket. And you never opted in to anything. Apple markets itself as the privacy alternative, and compared to Google, it is more conservative. But in 2021, researchers at Trinity College Dublin found that even with all privacy settings turned off, iPhones still transmitted telemetry data to Apple servers every 4.5 minutes. Not occasionally, every 4.5 minutes while idle. Samsung's smart TVs were found in 2015 to transmit voice commands to third-party servers even when the smart feature was off. The TV was listening. It shipped that way. These are not conspiracy theories. These are documented, sourced findings from university researchers and investigative journalists. The insiders know this. Now you do too. Most people focus on apps. Delete the sketchy apps. Protect yourself. Done. That is surface-level thinking, and it leaves the real system completely untouched. The deeper system operates at the hardware level, the network level, and the agreement level. 3 layers most users never examine. At the hardware level, modern smartphones contain baseband processors that operate independently of your main operating system. Security researcher Matthew Garrett documented in 2022 how baseband chips communicate on cellular networks with limited oversight from the device's user-facing software. You can turn off Wi-Fi, you can disable location, the baseband keeps running. At the network level, your router is logging DNS requests. Every domain your devices attempt to reach, timestamped. Most ISPs in the United States are legally permitted to sell anonymized versions of this data to third parties. That is every website, every app, every connected device in your home, mapped and monetized. At the agreement level, remember that privacy policies can change. Spotify updated theirs in September 2023, to include the right to collect data about your photos, voice, and precise location. Existing users were notified via email. Most did not read it. Consent was assumed by continued use. 3 layers. Most people only ever think about the first one. Let's get specific because vague claims are easy to dismiss. In December 2022, the New York Times published a dataset analysis showing that location data brokers could identify individuals visiting abortion clinics, mental health facilities, and addiction treatment centers from data that was technically anonymized and legally purchased. Location pings from smartphones sold through advertising networks reconstructed into individual movement trails. In 2020, a Vice motherboard investigation purchased a dataset for $270 that tracked the location of U.S. military personnel at sensitive overseas bases, purchased legally from a data broker using smartphone advertising IDs. $270. In 2019, Princeton University's WebTap project found that 482 of the top 50,000 websites recorded everything you typed, including when you deleted it before hitting submit. Passwords, searches, personal messages drafted and abandoned, recorded. These are not edge cases. These are documented, peer-reviewed, and published findings. The evidence exists. It just lives in academic papers and investigative journalism most people never encounter. You are encountering it now. Here is where most videos like this fall apart. They scare you and leave you paralyzed. That is not what this channel does. There are real, practical steps that cost little to nothing and dramatically reduce your exposure. First, treat your network as the first line of defense. A privacy-focused DNS resolver like NextDNS or Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 blocks tracking domains before your devices ever connect to them. Free setup, 5 minutes, works on every device on your Wi-Fi simultaneously. Second, stop using default browsers and search engines on mobile. Firefox with uBlock Origin enabled blocks the majority of third-party trackers. DuckDuckGo's mobile browser blocks trackers automatically and is free. Third, audit your app permissions quarterly. On iPhone, go to Settings, Privacy, and Security, and review which apps have access to your location, microphone, and camera. On Android, go to Settings, Privacy, Permission Manager. You will find apps with access you never consciously granted. Revoke everything that does not have an obvious reason to exist. Fourth, understand that smart home devices, speakers, displays, cameras, are always on microphones in your home by design. If you use them knowing what they are. If you do not need them, the privacy gain from removing them is immediate and complete. If you want to go further than software settings, and some of you will after watching this, there are physical tools that work at the hardware level where software cannot reach. On Amazon right now, you can find Faraday bags designed for phones and key fobs. These are signal-blocking pouches that prevent your device from transmitting or receiving any wireless signal while inside. Researchers, journalists working on sensitive stories, and security professionals use these routinely. They range from about $12 to $40, and they work. Laptops and tablets with built-in cameras and microphones can be addressed with hardware privacy switches. Physical kill switches that cut power to the camera and mic at the circuit level, not just the software level. Some manufacturers, like Purism, build these in by default. For aftermarket options, webcam covers with a physical slide are a start, and USB data blockers prevent charge-only cables from transferring data when you plug in at public charging stations. For your home network, no-log routers running open-source firmware like DDWRT or purpose-built privacy routers available on Amazon give you control over DNS, logging, and traffic routing that consumer ISP equipment simply does not offer. These are tools. They are not perfect, but they shift the balance significantly in your direction. Links to specific options are in the description. Every one I mention I have personally evaluated for this channel. We opened this video with a question about permission. Here is how that loop closes. You did not give anyone permission to build a shadow profile of your life. You did not give anyone permission to sell your location to data brokers for $270. You did not give anyone permission to record what you typed and deleted, but they did it anyway. Because the agreement was buried, the language was technical, and the assumption was that you would never look closely enough to notice. You looked. That changes something. Not everything. The system is large, and the incentives run deep. But every DNS filter you set, every permission you revoke, every Faraday bag you drop your phone into before a sensitive conversation, that is you reasserting control over something you were told you had no say in. Share this video with one person who uses smart home tech and has never thought about this. Not to frighten them, to inform them. Because the most powerful thing surveillance systems depend on is your continued unawareness. Subscribe to Tech Pulse Daily for weekly breakdowns of what the tech industry does not advertise about its own products. The description has every resource mentioned here. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing constitutes professional advice of any kind.